Hello, everyone. This is Pastor John with Mini Me over my shoulder, making sure that I give the right information for chapter 19 called The Return Home. This chapter, one of the primary important things to remember is that this chapter is about the beginning of the Jews returned back from Babylon back to Judah. And of course, the word Jew comes from Judahite. It's a person of the tribe of Judah. And so the abbreviated term is Jew or Jewish. So we have Judah, people from Judah, people from Benjamin, and people from Levi that will be returning. What instigates this? What brings this on? Well, Cyrus, king of Persia, has a favorable view of the Jewish people and decides to send them back. And so he writes on the first page of our chapter, which is page 263. This is what Cyrus, the king of Persia, says. The Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he has appointed me to build a temple for him at Jerusalem and Judah. Any of his people among you may go up to Jerusalem and Judah and build the temple of the Lord, the God of Israel, the God who is in Jerusalem, and may their God be with them. And in any locality where survivors may now be living, the people are to provide them with silver and gold, with goods and livestock, and with free will offerings for the temple of God in Jerusalem. All right, so this is a good setup. They were being set free essentially by a benevolent Gentile king. This is not a Jewish king. This is a Gentile Persian king. Persia is from Susa, and that area is now present-day Iran. And he was a benevolent king, and he makes a proclamation that the people that are not from Judah, not from Israel, the surrounding neighbors are to give them these gifts, whether it be gold or silver or what have you. And so this is the beginning of the next phase of the southern tribe of Israel. They receive these gifts, they move on, and they start leaving. They have all kinds of things that they're bringing with them. There's about almost 43,000 of them returning from Babylon to Jerusalem. There was a ton of silver and gold, including pieces that were from the temple that had been destroyed, that had been taken out by the Babylonian king. Remember that they were exiled to Babylon, but then the Persian king defeats the Babylonian king and takes over Babylon, and now he's setting the Jews free. And so they return home and they start to rebuild. But the first thing they want to rebuild is the altar. Interesting, right? They're not working from the outside in, they're working from the inside out. God, when he's rebuilding, fixing, repairing his church, he starts with worship and theology. And so the altar was at the center. It had to be built first. And of course, they laid a foundation for the temple. Now that's wonderful, and they celebrated, and they started to perform the feast. They started to go back to their practices, which was wonderful, and a celebration. And at the laying of the foundation, some celebrated, but the older people, they cried. Part of the reason for this is because the foundation was much smaller than the original foundation of the temple. In other words, this is going to be a smaller temple. Now, after this, they face a lot of opposition from the locals in the area, from Samaritans and others. And so eventually, after a few years, they just completely give up. They go back and they start to build their own homes. Well, that's a problem because God wanted the temple to be built first. And so he motivates the next king of Persia, who is Darius, to go back to the records and find what they were supposed to do, what the Jews were supposed to be doing. And so we learn about the prophet Haggai, who comes out to lead them and to inspire the people who were living in Jerusalem, specifically, to re-inspire them to continue the building of the temple. And in fact, that's just what happens. The temple starts to get built. It takes about 6 years to rebuild the entire temple. Then we learn also about another prophet by the name of Zechariah, and he is also a priest. And so he helps to inspire, at the same time as Haggai, helps to inspire the continued rebuilding of the temple. It was critical that that temple be rebuilt. Now, one thing that you'll note is they faced more opposition. On pages 270 and 271, there are these rulers in areas around Jerusalem, Tattenai, and another man by the name of Shethar-Bozenai, who oppose the building of the temple. But Darius, he would not bend to that, and the temple was continually being built. It took 20 years from the time that they arrived in 536 until 516. And in our book, it gives us a date of March the 12th, which was roughly 70 years after the last people were taken from Judah and sent into exile in Babylon. One thing I want to note is, as in the beginning of the reading, as you read all about the gifts that the people were given as they were leaving to come to Jerusalem, you know, the first wave that I was talking about of the Jews returning to their homeland, King Cyrus, that first king that made the first declaration, he told them the neighbors to give them all this gold and silver and other belongings. Well, that is identical to how the Israelites left Egypt. The only difference was when the exiles that were leaving Egypt, the Israelites that were leaving Egypt hundreds of years before, when they left and they had gold and they had received gifts from their neighbors, it was out of compulsion and fear because God had brought plagues on them. In this case, it's very much a different situation where the people aren't compelled to do it out of fear, but they do it out of obedience to their master, their king. And so it's a different situation. And what we'll find in the next chapter is that many of the Jews actually stayed in Persia. And even to this day, there is a Jewish population in Persia. I hope this is helpful. It's a great chapter. There's a lot of people's names. If you haven't purchased it, this is very helpful exploring the story to keep all of that straight. Well, God's blessings to you, and I pray that you have a good week reading. Take your time, sort it out. If you're confused, feel free to text or call me.